Fish and collarbones? Crabs and vending machines? Hand-painted mountains, too? Where the heck am I? Well, believe it or not, today we're taking a trip to East Asia and checking out the insane cuisine, medical treatments, government conspiracies, and more that you can only find in China. Everybody knows that I have curves in all the right places, and I attained this dream body by sitting on the couch and eating potato chips. But in some parts of China, a slimmer figure is regarded very highly, and people have taken to a bizarre beauty trend that shows off how thin they are with live fish. What? The uncreatively named Fish and a Collarbone Challenge has taken China by storm, as it's used to flex how pronounced your clavicle is. The idea is that the skinnier you are, the more fish you can fit on your collar, turning this into a numbers competition too. The fad seems to have gained popularity from 2018 onwards, following on from a similarly toxic trend in 2015 where women tested how many coins they could fit above their collar. The fish challenge has been even more popular, and a water park in Chongqing even hosted a fish and collarbone contest for the chance to win free entry tickets. Obviously, this is pretty harmful for everyone's body image, and I'll admit, it isn't making me feel too confident about my collarbones. But it's even worse for the poor fish having to swim in some random person's clavicle. Then again, maybe I'm just jealous. I don't even have a neck. Still, this isn't the craziest way that animals are used in China, especially when you look through this menu of local Chinese delicacies. Let's start with a drink, pouring ourselves a piping hot cup of tea made with leaves fertilized with panda dung. You'd think a drink made with literal poop would be cheap, but panda tea is actually one of the most expensive teas in the world. It's grown by a businessman called An Yanxi in Yan City, Sichuan province, and he charges 20,000 yuan for a 1.7 ounce box. That's around $2,700, which is roughly $100 per cup. The price is so high because he claims that the tea has incredible restorative powers and the leaves are able to treat cancer. See, there is some real scientific evidence that green tea can reduce the risk of certain cancers, and Yanxi claims that the panda dung enhances this ability. This is apparently due to the fact that 99% of a panda's diet is bamboo, but they only digest around 30% of the leaves that they eat. The remaining 70% passes through to the panda's feces, and bamboo is incredibly rich in nutrients, minerals, and fibers. Yanxi came to the conclusion that all this goodness passes from the dung to the tea leaves, naturally strengthening their existing anti-cancer abilities. Now, if you think this sounds pretty far-fetched, then you're not alone. In 2012, a scientist refuted the claim, stating that bamboo leaves have no cancer-preventing properties, and even if they did, they wouldn't be passed to the leaves when used as fertilizer. So while the dung does help the leaves grow, and green tea might help prevent some types of cancer, there's no evidence that panda poop turns it into a miracle cure. Even if it did, the doo-doo drink is outside most of our budgets, so here's a delicacy that's far more affordable. Live crabs from a vending machine. This specific machine was found in a subway station in Nanjing back in 2010, selling each crab for around $3. Incredibly, they were installed to cater to people craving a fishy snack late at night after crab shops closed for the evening. For most of us, a live crab isn't the ideal junk food, but this turned out to be hugely popular in China, and machines like this have been known to sell upwards of 200 crabs a day. Now, if you're wondering why the critters are sold alive, it's because crab meat spoils incredibly quickly, and the last thing you want is a vending machine full of rotten crustaceans. Still, the crabs are held in a hibernated state as the machines sit at a chilly 41 to 50 degrees, and each one is stored in a plastic box that makes them feel like they're in a cave. This also contains their claws, so they can't pinch the people that buy them when they wake up without putting them through the painful practice of binding their claws together. In 2013, one of the vending machines popped up in the city of Hangzhou, and this one offered each customer a live hairy crab, 2 bags of ginger tea, and some crab vinegar on the side. That's definitely the weirdest meal deal I've ever heard of. And if I found one of these machines, I'd find it hard to stop myself from buying every crab and releasing them at the closest beach. There you go, little feller. Be free. What the hell is that? Sorry, ladies, you just took me by surprise. If you're as pale as me, you'll know how easy it is to burn underneath the scorching sun. But China has a clever and slightly unsettling solution to the problem. A face kini is a popular piece of swimwear that's designed to keep your head completely blocked from the sun's harmful rays. See, many people in China prefer fairer skin and tanning is deemed unfashionable. But as temperatures on the coast regularly rise above 95 degrees in the summer, it's kinda hard not to. Beforehand, people would bring umbrellas to the beach, but the face kini became a new way of covering your skin in the hotter months, sparing yourself an embarrassing burn and the risk of skin cancer. These garments were invented in 2004 in the coastal city of Qingdao, and before long, they spread like wildfire to other parts of China, including non-coastal cities like Beijing. The outfits are also popular because they offer protection from jellyfish stings and insects, and some users opt to stay safe in style. Coordinating your face kini with a full-length swimsuit is very popular, and while these ladies may look like a colorful assortment of Power Rangers, they're actually the peak of Chinese beach fashion. To be fair, they do look better than I do in my sad little Speedos. Whilst face kinis are the new hot thing in China, some of the country's freakiest fashion trends are much older. The most infamous is over 1,000 years old, and it'll have you squirming in your seat. Foot binding is a toe-curling practice that sees young girls between the ages of 3 and 11 molding their feet to fit incredibly small shoes. The girls' feet are tightly bound, which naturally stunts their growth, and over time the small bones in their toes break and the foot arch lifts, leaving their toes crushed beneath their feet. Ouch. Over several years, their feet would be bound repeatedly in shoes that got smaller and smaller, with the most desirable size being just 3 inches long. One type of popular tiny footwear called lotus shoes measured between 4 to 5 inches in length, and unbelievably, they were considered large. And here I thought my size 7 feet were dainty. Unsurprisingly, the process is agonizing, and once it was done, the girls would have to walk on their heels for the rest of their life. But people believed that this exercise created beautiful feet and taught young girls strict obedience. As if they could endure the crushing pain, they wouldn't complain about trivial things to their husbands when they grew up and became wives. Jeez. The tradition was so widespread that having smaller feet massively increased your chances of getting married altogether, and tragically for hundreds of years foot binding was a normal occurrence. Incredibly, around 40% of women actually bound their feet of their own volition, most likely due to pressure from their families and to fit in with societal norms. It was finally banned across the country in 1912, but people kept the painstaking practice alive behind closed doors well into the late 1960s. Fortunately, today, foot binding has stopped completely, and while I'm usually all for old traditions, I'm pretty glad this one has died and stayed dead. The barbaric fashion trend is now completely illegal, but if somebody gets caught binding feet, there's an insane legal exploit in China that could get them off scot-free. See, dingzhui is an illegal Chinese practice that translates to substitute criminal, and it involves guilty criminals paying a body double to attend their trial and serve their sentence if they're given jail time. In 2012, a former lawyer and businesswoman called Gu Kailai went to court for fatally poisoning the British businessman Neil Haywood. While some sources claim there was a business dispute between the two, her real motive has never been uncovered. But Gu was charged and given a suspended death sentence, which gives the criminal a chance to reduce their sentence to life imprisonment if they behave well in prison. Either way, it looked like Gu's life as she knew it was over, except when pictures of her private trial were leaked, the public concluded that the woman being charged wasn't Kailai at all.
Suspicious, very suspicious.
People pointed out how different she looked, as her once pointed nose was now full and round, and she'd seemingly gained a significant amount of weight overnight. This suspicion was bolstered by a rumor supposedly sourced from someone in the Chinese government. They said that Kailai paid a body double named Zhao Tianyun to go to trial for her, and that the real Kailai was still living in Beijing. Suspiciously, the Chinese government soon blocked internet searches for the term body double and the name Zhao Qianyun, implying they were in on it. Furthermore, one report has suggested that Qianyun was hand-selected by a prominent Chinese politician and his wife. It's theorized that the government gave Kailai her freedom due to the power her family holds, as her husband, Bo Xilai, was one of the Communist Party's top leaders and her father was a renowned general. Furthermore, she was one of the country's most influential businesswomen, so if they didn't protect her from jail, she could implicate other corrupt figures within the government and Chinese elites. Her trial was attended by just a few select witnesses, and journalists were prohibited from attending, so it would be easy for the government to do a switcheroo and use a body double instead. Now, you may be wondering, what's in it for the body double if they have to spend their life in prison or take a trip to death row? Well, it's believed that their families receive a huge payout, or the body double is blackmailed into taking the deal, and their family could face consequences if they refuse. Either way, in 2015, it was announced that Kailai, or Zhao Qianyun, had successfully dodged her death penalty and was granted her reduced sentence. So if the swap really happened, Zhao is now serving life imprisonment for another woman's offense. Crime clearly runs in the family because in 2013, Kailai's husband Bo also went to court and was convicted on bribery and embezzlement charges. Incredibly, he was seen smiling while getting his sentence of life imprisonment, so many believe that he wouldn't be serving his own punishment either and would use a body double just like his wife. Once again, there's no absolute proof that this happened, but when people demanded to see photos of Bo in his cell to prove he was really arrested, the authorities refused. Supposedly, Bo is still serving his sentence in Beijing's Qincheng prison, a luxury jail where prisoners wear their own clothing and receive meals prepared by a chef in a nearby hotel. But you can't spell bogus without Bo and Goo, and others think that the criminal couple has been allowed to flee the country while their doubles take the rap. Hey, at least Bo's double is serving his sentence in luxury. Still, Ding Zui isn't only utilized by the rich and elite, and there are professional doubles at work who offer the service to anyone. Huo Ronghui was a professional body double from Taiwan who suffered from leukemia. This meant he was able to happily switch places with a criminal and get charged before announcing he had leukemia, which exempted him from serving time for minor offenses and placed him on medical parole. This allowed him to avoid going to jail while getting the real culprit off too, and he carried out the scam repeatedly for over 10 years. He charged anywhere between $6,000 to $13,000 each time, and he reportedly earned around $77,000 for 172 separate cases in his career, clocking up 48 years of prison time that nobody served. In 2007, Guo was finally caught for grossly violating this parole, and he immediately confessed to working as a double for the last decade. But he showed how easy it is to fake a criminal conviction in China, and if he could get away with it, members of high society like Bo and Gu definitely could too. The practice shows the lengths that people will go to avoid prison time, but I can think of worse places to end up. My mother-in-law's house, Walmart on Black Friday, or the small Chinese town of Zixichao, which is better known as Snake Village. There's not a creature on this earth that I fear more than snakes, and if you too have an ophidiophobia to rival Indiana Jones, you'll want to steer well clear of Zixichao's 100 snake farms.
Oh my god!
The locals here rear around 3 million pythons, cobras, and vipers for meat, and there's so many that the village has a terrifying serpent-to-human ratio of 3,000 to 1. All this delicious snake meat is turned into soups and wines, which are believed to boost the immune system according to traditional Chinese medicine. So the snakes are usually found in boxes, jars, and cages, but in the summer months you'll find them writhing around in open concrete pits, and you'd have to pay me $3 million just to step foot in one. Some of the species are incredibly dangerous, and one of the most deadly and feared in Zixichao is the Dianakistrodon, which is nicknamed the 5-step snake. This pet name comes from a belief that once bitten, you'll only be able to take 5 steps before you succumb to the venom. But thankfully, this popular myth is just that, a myth. since the bite won't be fatal if you're given antivenom within 6 hours. Still, the legend lingers on, and in 2019, a snake farmer in Zhejiang got bitten by one on his finger, panicked, and cut it off completely. The doctor stated that his actions were completely unnecessary, but they weren't able to reattach the digit because he'd left it behind at the scene during his panic. Well, I'm feeling queasy, and that's enough reptile talk for me. If I wanted to boost my immune system, I definitely wouldn't turn to snake soup. But fortunately, China is full of other less terrifying but equally strange medical practices like moxibustion. This is a type of traditional acupuncture treatment that involves burning sticks of an herb called mugwort close to the skin. This sounds a bit medieval, but it's actually believed to strengthen the blood and stimulate the flow of qi or energy in your body. Having good qi will reportedly help in treating your chronic pains and digestive issues, which would come in super handy with my crippling lower back pain. One too many days slouched on the couch watching YouTube has taken its toll on my spine and my eyes, but luckily mugwort can solve that too. See, one type of moxibustion involves wearing strange walnut glasses that are soaked in a rose-like shrub called medlar and chrysanthemum liquid. Then mugwort strips are attached to the shells and lit on fire. Whilst they burn down, they heat up the walnuts, and after a 45-minute session, it's supposed to improve circulation and reduce inflammation in and around the eyes. This process supposedly treats dry eye disease, short-sightedness, and optic nerve atrophy, which can significantly reduce your field of vision. Today, you'll find it done specially at Guang'an Men's Hospital in Beijing, but the practice has been used since the Qing dynasty in the 17th and 20th centuries to treat surgical ulcers. So it's seemingly a tried and true medical treatment. But would you try these wacky walnut glasses? Let me know in the comments below. Whatever your answer may be, keep it in mind for this next treatment, cause it's a real zinger. Or should I say stinger. Apitherapy is a branch of Chinese medicine that uses beeswax, pollen, and honey for various treatments. These bee-sourced products contain antioxidants like polyphenols and terpenes, which have anti-inflammatory, anti-diabetic, and even anti-cancer properties. So they've been used to heal a range of maladies throughout China's ancient history since at least the 2nd century BCE, aka over 2,000 years ago. Sounds pretty normal so far, right? Well, one particular type of apitherapy treatment involves dosing patients with bee venom directly from the sting. For just $18, doctors at the Kangtai Bee Clinic in Beijing will deliberately stab you with bee stings to take your pain away, giving you anywhere from 4 to 100 stings depending on your ailment. When the bee stings the patient, the stinger is left in their skin for several hours, which delivers around 0.3 milligrams of toxin, and incredibly, it's been proven that this has legitimate medical benefits. It's unclear why the stings are effective, but many theories point to the fact that the venom contains the compound melittin. This consists of 26 amino acids and is proven to have antiviral, antibacterial, and cancer-preventing effects in clinical studies. The venom also contains apoman and adolapin, which are both anti-inflammatory and pain-relieving amino acids. Getting a bee sting to relieve long-term pain doesn't sound too smart, but scientific studies have proved that this venom can be effective in treating inflammation, arthritis, Parkinson's disease, bone and joint disease, and cancer. Basically, every ailment. Except for short-sightedness, you should stick to the walnut glasses for that one. Some experts believe more trials are needed, but one patient suffering from pain related to diabetes took a round of bee sting acupuncture in 2010 and stated that his pain was gone that afternoon and his legs felt lighter. Damn, after learning about its superpower healing properties, I might actually give it a go. In fact, I might just hit up the closest bee hut before my back starts to flare up again. Some of China's quirks like apitherapy have been around for centuries, but this next one is a bit more modern. See, China is known for their knockoff products, and the most egregious example is their copycat cities that emulate everything from European villages to American concrete jungles. One example is Tim's Town, a replica city located in Shanghai's Songjiang district, and I'm pretty sure you can guess where it's taken its name from. Yep. Tim's Town is China's very own version of Merry Old England. Influenced by London and British seaside towns, it has cobbled streets, timber-framed houses, and red telephone boxes galore. It even has statues of Winston Churchill and Harry Potter dotted around.
Wicked.
The construction was completed in 2006 and it aimed to provide accommodation for staff of nearby universities and their families. But despite costing $700 million to build, today it's virtually a ghost town. Many of the houses are empty for most of the year, having been bought up early on as vacation homes for wealthy families. Furthermore, the few houses that are still available to buy are way too expensive for the average citizen. Even if you could live there, you probably wouldn't want to, as many of the town's stores are just fake shopfronts containing props to keep up the British aesthetic. As a result, the population typically consists of wealthy vacationers, Chinese tourists who can't afford to go to the real England, and a few security guards dressed in vaguely British uniforms. It looks like they picked up the wrong hats, though. Across the pond from fake England is fake Manhattan. But luckily, you only have to travel 800 miles to visit it instead of the usual 3,500. Located in the Yujiapu Financial District in Tianjin, the first building was constructed in 2010. China's government hoped the city would rival Beijing and Shanghai as a thriving economic hub and become the capital of global finance once it was finished. They wanted it to capture the spirit of New York's iconic skyline, so plans for a new Rockefeller Center, a Lincoln Center, and even a Juilliard School of Music were drawn up. But the total construction costs were eye-watering at over $30 billion. Sadly, this was just too expensive, so construction was halted in 2014, and most of the buildings that were built remain largely empty. In the years since, China's mini Manhattan has seen some growth, with a few residents moving in and forming small businesses, but it's still little more than an unfinished city filled with eerie, hollow skyscrapers. Their dream megalopolis had turned into a megaflopolis. But not all of China's phony cities are failed ghost towns. Built with astonishing attention to detail, Tianducheng is a housing estate in the suburbs of Hangzhou that's closely inspired by the city of love, Paris. Covering almost 12 square miles with Parisian-inspired architecture, landscaping, and fountains, this copycat town is most famously home to a full replica of the Eiffel Tower. This one-third size copy of the famous landmark brings in tons of tourists, which keeps the local economy afloat. Development started in 2007 with the town initially designed to accommodate around 10,000 people, but it's been a great success and it's now reportedly home to almost 30,000 citizens that were attracted to the European lifestyle. The Chinese government has accused some of the European structures of being at odds with socialist core values, and they've debated renaming some of the town's French street names. But for now,
we'll always have Paris,
even if it is a Chinese knockoff. A similar dispute has occurred at Suzhou, a city in eastern China along the banks of the Yangtze River. That's affectionately known as the Venice of the East. It's a major economic center and a focal point for trade. But strangely enough, it's also home to a whopping 56 replica bridges, all based on iconic bridges from around the world. Examples include a beefed-up quad-tower version of London's Tower Bridge, as well as Sydney's Harbour Bridge and Paris's Point Alexandre III, among other copycats all across the city. See, when setting out to connect the city's flourishing trade zones with bridges, the developers rejected traditional architecture, believing that replicas of famous landmarks would earn more exposure for the city. They were right, but while the bridges have gained Suzhou international media attention, the reaction from locals has been less positive. Many believe the replicas should be more aligned with Chinese culture, and the government seems to agree, as they spent $2.3 million in 2019 renovating the replica Tower Bridge to look more Chinese. I'll leave you to decide whether or not it was worth the money. But still, visiting the city and going from one European style to another in quick succession must give tourists serious cultural whiplash. Whenever I visit another country, and I mean an actual country, I always love to sample new dishes. But in China's street markets, some of the offerings might be a shock to those visiting from the West. Just take this unusual dish called sudiu, which is literally a stone stir-fry. Surprisingly, this crunchy cuisine isn't a new trend or a social media challenge. It actually dates back hundreds of years when boatmen traveling along the Yangtze River would get stranded in the landlocked Hubei province and run out of animals and veggies to eat. They needed to get some minerals in their diet, so to keep themselves from starving, they'd grab river stones and fry them to enhance their already fishy flavor. Fast forward to present day, and these pebbles are often sold at street markets with chili and garlic going for around $2.20 per serving. Now you might be wondering how you actually eat this dish without destroying your teeth. Well, the instruction is in the name itself, as Suriu directly translates to suck and discard. Sucking on the stones will give you that spicy fish fried taste, and once you've drained the flavor out of it, you just throw the stone away. That's a relief. Although you can never be too careful when it comes to throwing rocks and putting them directly in your mouth. I bet the dish has been responsible for more than a few broken teeth and windows over the years. Now that we've sucked our stony starter, I'm ready for the main course. A nice rotisserie chicken is a favorite of mine, but if I was served one in China, it might look slightly different to what I'm used to. See, there's a Chinese breed of chicken called the Black Silky, which sports fluffy black feathers and black or bluish-gray skin. You might think this is a sickening feat of animal engineering, but the Chinese have been tucking into these gothic birds since the 7th or 8th century, and surprise, surprise, it's said to have healing properties. The magical bird is used to treat insomnia, lung deficiencies, and even tuberculosis due to its high carnosine content. This is a protein naturally produced by most animals, including humans, and it reduces inflammation and protects our cells from damage. So there's evidence that taking carnosine supplements to increase the amount in our bodies can aid health issues like diabetes, anemia, menstrual cramps, and postpartum disorders. Incredibly, studies have revealed that the Silky Wonder Chicken contains twice as much carnosine as other breeds, making it a natural supplement and a bit of a superfood. In China, it's used to treat lots of ailments, and people that have just given birth often chow down on Silky chicken to give them renewed energy. Anecdotally, a renowned professor of East Asian studies at Harvard, Yale, and Princeton called Yu Ying Sing even noted that he ate it as a child to cure chronic headaches. If you're feeling sick, it definitely beats out your mom's chicken soup, and as for the taste, some claim there's hardly any difference from regular chicken, while others say it's even better. As an added bonus, it has the benefit of being raised mostly on free-range farms, since silkies are smaller birds and take a longer time to mature, leading to less factory farms and mass production. So if you ever see a plate of black chicken served up in China, you don't have to be alarmed. But on the other hand, if someone serves you this pork in a restaurant, run, because it definitely won't cure your aches and pains, and it'll make your skin glow. I'm not kidding. This really happened to a Chinese woman in 2011. Mrs. Chen woke up one night to a soft blue glow from her kitchen, and when she investigated, she found the pork she'd bought shining blue. Then she looked down and realized that there was a faint glow coming from her hands, too. She wasn't the only one, and in 2016, a man in Leshan City went through a similar experience when he bought 92 pounds of pork from a farmer's market and left it to marinate overnight. When he came down at 5 a.m. the next morning, he noticed blue light emitting from the bucket. But what was the cause of this mystery glow? Well, in both cases, experts believe that it was likely due to contamination from phosphorescent bacteria called Pseudomonas fluorescens. This bacteria can cause things to glow in the dark due to a fluorescent pigment it contains called pyoverdine. The bacteria can be found in plants, soil, water, and other things pigs eat and roll around in, which is how they get contaminated. It isn't generally threatening to your health if you ingest it, since cooking the meat will destroy the bacteria, but it's best to throw it away because the fact that the pig has been contaminated with bacteria may indicate unsanitary cleaning and meat handling practices in the farm it came from. I mean, it should go without saying that if you see your meat actually glowing, you shouldn't start making pulled pork subs. That being said, I'd definitely rather take my chances with glowing pork chops than this next Chinese dish that has the most off-putting name imaginable. See, in the village of Dongyang, there's a traditional cuisine that'll make your face go green called virgin boy eggs. Excuse me? As you might have guessed, this Chinese delicacy is a little indelicate, and to make the abomination, you have to collect pee from young boys, preferably under the age of 10. The eggs aren't made in the toilet, and fresh urine is actually collected every day from schools with buckets placed in hallways. Some egg vendors even wait around the village's streets with empty bottles and ask parents to allow their sons to pee into them. When it comes to cooking, chefs usually soak the eggs in the urine first and then bring them to the boil. Then they remove them, crack the shells, and leave them to stew in the yellow bath for a whole day. Afterwards, more urine may be added, or they may sprinkle in some herbs. I don't know if rosemary and basil is going to make this any more appetizing, guys, but what the hell, sure. This awful mixture eventually turns the whites of the eggs yellow and leaves the yolks the color of mud-trodden grass. But some folks in Pyongyang say the delicacy tastes delicious with a strong salty flavor. At just 25 cents per egg, you're certainly getting an experience and perhaps even medicinal benefits. People believe that they energize the body, improve blood circulation, and prevent heat stroke. Of course, there's no scientific proof of any of this, but who knows? Maybe the eggs are a superfood and they really do taste good. Am I convinced? No, I very much am not. The egg yolk may be green in some parts of China, but the same can't be said for much of the nation's countryside. See, China creates more pollution than any other country in the world due to their high population, rapid industrialization, and reliance on fossil fuels like coal. This results in soil pollution around their cities, which can turn the grass and vegetation yellow as it dies. But what do you do if your country's polluted landscape is no longer green? You just paint over it, of course. There have been a few cases of local governments in China trying to artificially make their countryside look more fertile and eco-friendly. Like in Fumin County, where officials made the area around the Laoshao Mountain greener in 2006 by literally spray painting it. The workers were pretty confused as to why they were ordered to paint the mountain. Then when journalists caught wind of the story and questioned the Fumin County Forestry Department, the only response they received was, "This is an order from above. I don't have any information on this." The villagers suggested that the aim of the green graffiti was to improve the feng shui of the mountain, an idea that involves changing your surrounding environment to bring harmony to your life and improve your well-being. Other theories point to the fact that Laoshao Mountain was quarried for over 2 decades, which caused a lot of environmental damage such as heavy flooding. This means that the paint could be an attempt by the government to make people think they're repairing the eco-damage that was caused, and the mountain's grass is regrowing. Either way, the whole project cost around $60,000, which they could have just spent on planting real trees instead. How ironic. Fumin County's government never gave an official justification for the mountain makeover, but some cities have gotten this treatment too. In September 2022, a video was uploaded to social media of a Chinese worker in an unnamed city stapling fake leaves to the bare branches of a dead tree. This is nothing new, and back in 2013, city workers in Chengdu were seen spraying dead grass green alongside a road. As the photos went viral, Chengdu's landscape department stated that it wasn't just spray paint, but a chemical nutrient fluid that helped to keep the grass healthy and thriving in the winter months. Yet further investigation revealed that the product was actually called Top Green, and a salesman of the paint stated it was essentially green dye with no grass-boosting nutrients whatsoever. He further revealed that they typically sold the product to golf courses, but they'd also been supplying it to Chengdu's government for at least 5 to 6 years. He suggested that the government could have added nutrients into the dyeing agents themselves, but that seems pretty far-fetched, and it looks like China just wanted to turn the polluted city into a verdant paradise without actually growing healthy grass. They say the grass is always greener on the other side, but if the other side is in China, it might just be fake. Spray paint isn't the only way to create a fraudulent field, though. In 2023, a Douyin user approached a meadow in Wanrong County and discovered it was actually made out of hundreds of stones speared on the end of rebar. When he posted the clip, his viewers started to theorize that the stones and the green-painted hills were placed by the local government to make it look like the area's vegetation was flourishing. However, this time they believed that Wanrong's government was attempting to trick the Chinese Communist Party's larger Ministry of Land and Resources. See, local governments in China are given environmental targets by the CCP to fight pollution and rewild the country. So Wanrong County's officials could have placed the stone and paint to make the area look like a field of flowers from a satellite POV and pretend they hit their targets. This is pretty plausible, but as the video went viral, a YouTube channel called China Observer posted an official statement from the Wanrong County Transportation Bureau. They set the record straight by explaining that this field of stones was actually an art installation from 2021 called Wind Blows Stones Move. Apparently, as a breeze passes over the field, the stones ripple like real vegetation, and this explanation has been backed up by people who've supposedly visited the installation. Still, no details of the artist can be found online, and if you were a local government trying to trick the CCP and dodge your environmental targets, you'd hardly want to admit it. This means that we can't be 100% sure whether this landscape is an environmental cover-up or a statement art piece. Well, nobody can say that China's boring, and if you want some more cultural whiplash from another crazy country, why not check out my video on the weird things that only happen in Canada? Thanks for watching.